Welcome to Thrifty Garage. My name is Carson, and in today's video I'm going to replace this in-bed gooseneck ball with a Curt flip-over ball. Here we have the Curt in-bed gooseneck hitch. I've actually got two hardware sets here, so we'll go ahead and talk about that beforehand. We're going to install this today. If you haven't already checked out my Silverado work truck series, definitely check that out. Done a few other videos with this work truck, and I've got many more on the way. But in this video, we'll be doing the Curt turnover ball. Looked at a couple different options. B&W has an option, Curt has an option, and there's a few other options out on the market as well. B&W seems to be the industry leader, but I like the pricing on this Curt. I bought this from eTrailer.com for around $300. It was on a pretty big discount, $100 or $150 off, maybe even up to $200 off. Now I did have some issues with this order. Number one, when the order arrived, the box had a huge hole in the side of it. Parts were missing. One of the main support braces that goes from frame rail to frame rail was not in the box any longer. So I contacted eTrailer.com and their customer service, and they sent me out a new one. And they said, hey, check your other parts, make sure they're all good. Well, I didn't think too much of it. Everything seemed to be well packaged. So I pulled apart the boxes, and there was a sealed bag with all the hardware. And I got to looking at it and comparing it to photos, and it was actually missing quite a bit of hardware. So we'll go into that in this video and what hardware was missing. They ended up sending a new hardware kit, which also had missing components, which was very frustrating. They were great to work with customer service-wise, but I had some shipping issues. They've sent me two hardware kits as well as a replacement spanning bar here. And now a lot of my issues here are actually going to be with Curt, because I'm assuming the other ones that packaged this hardware kit. But you can see here we've got two hardware kits, and both indicated on their packages, both were in their packages undisturbed. Part is okay by weight, 7.38 pounds here, 7.35 pounds here. So there's a discrepancy in weight. Wouldn't be a big issue if the parts were all the same, and the parts are not the same. Here I've got these laid out. Came with two zip ties. Have that. Supposed to have these washers, and these have gotten moved. Supposed to have 12 lock washers. Well, the original kit I got only had 9 washers. It was also missing this bolt right here. Over here, I was missing this specialty spacer nut, and I was missing 2 of these nuts. So the replacement kit came with those 2 nuts, came with both of these like it was supposed to. And it also came with this bracket like it was supposed to. This one came with this metal bracket, which was not included in the new one. So I'm assuming that these were packaged by Curt, and both times they were incorrect. This is the hardware kit for my specific vehicle, along with these mounting brackets. Now, in the shipping process, one of these pieces became missing. When I got the box, it had a huge hole inside, and one of these was missing. They sent me a new one, and both of these, as you can see, have these notches in them. Supposed to be one with notches, one without. And the replacement one they sent me had notches again. I'm not sure if that was a miscommunication on my part, or if they just decided to send out that one with notches because it didn't matter. I believe the holes are lined up the same, should still work. I'm assuming it's going to be a little less strong. Now over to this hardware kit, which comes with the turnover ball kit. That is the universal part that goes with all their different kits. All the components were there for that, so no issues there. And with that replacement bar, they sent me the wrong one. So there's 2 different styles. One has a notch for the frame, and one straight across. And they basically sent me 2 of the notched ones and not one of the straight supports. So I decided to just go ahead and install it. It's Halloween night, putting this thing together, put it all together, and then I got to looking at it, and those support braces are intended to sit on the frame, and those 2 brackets that had the notches in them were floating above the frame. And so I knew I was going to have to do that. So I was hopeful that I could make it work. Thought maybe that they knew what they were doing and was maybe just sending me the component that would work for either one. I was probably a little bit naive in that assumption, but that's what I did. So put it on, and then immediately realized that. Sent them an email with better photo evidence. Initially I talked to them on the phone, which is hard to describe their photos and what's missing. So I sent images, circled what part I needed, and they were quick to send it back. Now all through this process, eTrailer was very responsive. Their customer service team was awesome, both the phone support and on email, and they got me parts within 2-3 days, which was really responsive, and got that new part on its way and was able to reinstall that. It wasn't as difficult to reinstall that part as I thought it would be, because everything I tightened down and bolted down, so in the meantime I could drive the truck around. Okay, so this piece they sent me is not going to work. It's got that gap and it's not sitting on the frame. So it actually worked out really well. I just removed the part that didn't work, put in the new part, had to tweak some stuff, used a jack to lift up or lower different components to settle it and make all the holes line up. Bolted it in, torqued it down, and worked out well from there. So the install process for this Curt turnover ball, I'm sure is very similar to what any other turnover ball system is. The instructions call for using a 1/2" by 13 thread pitch tap. I only have metric tap and die set. Good thing they've sent me 2 hardware sets here. So I've just taken one of these bolts and cut the tip in half. That'll help clean out any things on the threads as I'm threading that down. And if it binds up at all, I'll just back it off like a tap and die and then keep going. Hopefully that'll clean everything up without having to go buy a tap for this. Cut out this heat shield using my Makita Sawzall. This is their smaller version. Worked really well. Just lightly bolted everything together, put it in place, drilled a hole for the it to come through your bed. It's a 4-inch hole. Now one thing I didn't like with this is that they have you drill the hole first. And when I drilled the hole first, it didn't line up. And I think a big portion of the reason it didn't line up is I'm not 100% sure that my bed's factory or that my bed hasn't been removed and reinstalled. So I'm not sure if my bed is in the factory location, and it was off. My drill hole mark was off about 1/4 inch, which made things not fit perfectly. So the way they just have you do that, it's not as precise, and it's the hole is based off of your bed length, and the location of the ball underneath is determined by your frame. So if your bed and your frame are not perfectly bolted in the same spot, which those beds have adjustment and movements in them, it's going to be off. So it wasn't perfect, but you basically just loosely assemble everything and get it all into place, and then there's a certain procedure that you use to torque everything down. Really simple and easy. It did take much longer than I expected. I probably had, I already guessed, 4 hours into it, plus probably another hour or 2 to replace that existing component. It does come with a really nice rubber piece that is intended to protect the bed. I put that on, but because of the issue with the holes not lining up, half of that already came off, as well as it comes with the ring. It comes with this ring, which is intended to to pretty it up and dress it up, which I think is a great idea. A couple issues with this ring would be the type of screws they use. So here's the factory screw. Nice flat top piece, which is a great idea, but they don't sit in flush. They should have chamfered that down or something. I ended up purchasing these, which I think look a lot cleaner. So what I ended up doing, because this is intended to bolt on top of that turnover ball. It's got 3 holes there, and it just stuck up too high above the bed, and I knew if I was putting pallets and stuff in, it was going to get hung up on this. So I went and purchased these hardware. The ones that came with it are 3/4 inch, and the ones I bought were 1/2 inch, and I thread locked them and put them down in the holes. Just in case if I ever want to use that, I can remove those threads and use it, because if I didn't put them in the holes, those holes were going to get full of dirt and debris, and we're never going to be able to be cleaned up. So nice thing is that the rubber cover that they give you is able to sit on top of that, whether you have this extra ring on there or not. But as I assumed, the very first pallet I put in the bed, it snagged the rubber piece and popped it right out. So I don't really picture either that rubber grommet that goes around the hole or the rubber cover really staying in place if you actually use your truck bed, which is why I bought the turnover ball. Previously I had a plate ball in the bed that was bolted in place, and whenever I put pallets in there, they always got hung up on the ball. whenever I put gravel or other debris in their bed and I was shoveling stuff out, you'd always hit the ball with your shovel or with your foot. It was just a nuisance. And I knew when I bought the truck, that was something I'd be wanting to upgrade and to replace, and so this was the time to do it. So if it's a working truck, don't count on those rubber pieces really doing a whole lot for you. But the real thing that made a difference for me was the ability to turn over that ball and put it under the bed and get it out of my way. Now, I hate to share this. It's kind of a funny story, not if you're me, but hopefully someone out there can learn from my mistake. Being so used to a mounted ball in the bed, the first time I went to use this, you pull the pin out, you turn over your ball, and you hook up your trailer, and you go about your business. Well, I did all that, and I forgot to relatch the pin as I was loading up skid steer in the dump bed trailer. It actually lifted the gooseneck ball with the attached ball out of the hole and you know, pulled it up out of the bed. Luckily, I had my safety chains on, and it caught it, and it you know, as soon as I realized, as I backed off the trailer and it dropped the tongue back down, didn't line up perfectly. I had to re-jack it up and get it resituated and drop it back in the hole and pin it. So that is something I'm gonna have to get used to. So if you end up using one of these turnover balls, obviously everyone that uses one of these is gonna tell you that, and it was very stupid on my part, but hopefully my learning experience can be yours also. I'm trying to think of some sort of reminder system. Whenever I got that pin pulled, I've got a flag or something hanging out the door or the window that reminds me I've got the pin pulled and that I need to put a shut in before I do anything else. Or I need to turn over the ball and immediately latch it back into place, which will probably be the solution that I do. It's one of those just habitual things. Once you do it a few times, it becomes habit, and I just haven't created a habit. I haven't formed a habit with this new system and the way things work. With upgrading the turnover ball, I also installed a new wiring harness into the bed, so I can now plug the fifth wheel wiring harness into the bedside instead of having to dangle it over the tailgate. Going over the tailgate worked. I always use the safety chains to kind of hold that harness in place so it didn't drag on the ground, but now I don't have to worry about that at all. So hopefully this has been an informative video with this gooseneck turnover ball and system install. I'm sorry it's not a full, in-depth, detailed video, install video. There's plenty of those out there. eTrailer has some great install videos on the website. Really great resource. If you haven't checked them out already, you should. But this has been a really good system for me so far, working really well, and I'm looking forward to using this and having more versatility out of my bed. So without further ado, thanks for watching the Thrifty Garage. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and like the video, as well as comment down below. Thanks for watching the Thrifty Garage. So I've just taken one of these bolts and cut the tip in half. That'll help clean it up. That's still hot.